Hello everyone and welcome to Wowhead Weekly number 257. We had a little short break as there isn't that much going on right now, but now is a good time to start wrapping things together and talk about Torghast as we just had the Twisting Corridors also being introduced into the game. Apart from that, we also have BlizzCon line to talk about as it's coming very soon, and it's going to be interesting to see what is actually going to happen and what we can potentially expect to hear about as it comes on. Yeah, without going into too many details of anything, let me introduce myself. I'm Annie, or also known as Annie Fuchsia, and I am a full time streamer on Twitch playing lots and lots of World of Warcraft. My co host is, as usual, the lovely Perculia, and I'll let her introduce herself here.
Hello, I'm Perk. I'm joined by Brightpaw. You just saw his tail go across the stream. Amazing coordination. I am the site director for Wowhead, so I oversee all the guides and news and features we do, like the Wowhead Twitch extension. And it's always nice to do this show and just talk about what's popular on the site and be in front of the camera for a change once a week. And Brightpaw might join us as well. So we had some really interesting Torghast data mining and the cinematic we want to discuss. Normally at this point in the news cycle, we have like Ptr data mining or BlizzCon or like an Ian blog video at this point discussing the patch, which we don't have yet. So it's like a weird kind of quiet point in the news cycle, but still want to have 2021 off to a good start and definitely want to discuss Twisting Corridors and maybe speculate on when we'll get more info. So, yeah, without further ado, I think we should go straight into Twisting Corridors.
I think that sounds like a great plan. And speaking of, I was in there today actually. So I started my progression of it and I just completed layer 5.
So, what
Yeah.
do you think of it so far? Because I know a lot of people were really hype at the start, being like, oh, this is cool. It would be like endless mode. And then it didn't get much testing. And then it turned into like, maybe this is taking too long, or why aren't there more rewards, or this feels like sort of an endless slog, but not, as hype as like Proving
Mm-hmm.
Ground. So what do you think? How do you think it turned out?
And also, it's not really endless, is it?
No, it's just the 18 18 things or
18, yeah.
144 floors, which sounds like overwhelming.
It's
And you're
long.
like
Yep.
144 for 4 rewards.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just like, I know
Yep.
everyone is like, oh, this is like the Mage Tower, but it's like, no, because the Mage Tower was just, I feel like people just can't apply the word Mage Tower for content they want people to like.
Yeah, I think
Um,
I feel like there's I'm I was thinking about it today because when I was gonna go into a layer and do it, my first thought was, do I have 2 hours right now? Because they're really, really long. And
mm,
I feel like having 18 floors in one layer feels a little bit punishing perhaps for people who
mm,
might have to in the middle of it realize that they need to AFK for something and then they can't do that because they might die or they might DC or something similar. So I feel like I would have preferred to just have a an increase in layer, increase in difficulty rather than such increase in number of floors. I don't think that having it be that long is necessary. At the same time, though, I do understand that the less floors, that means less anima powers, and then you kind of lose that epic feeling of being really overpowered. And that's part of the fun of having 18 floors, that you've gone through so many floors to become that strong. But then why not maybe save your progress? Like once you have gone through a floor, let's say you're on layer 3, floor 6, and you decide, hey, I want to continue this later. And then maybe you could continue it later. I think that would be really cool, actually. Um,
yeah.
and on the topic of rewards, I'm okay with it not having a lot of rewards, but I would like to see some more types of rewards later for the different classes or specs because I learned that the layers are unlocked account wide. So if you have
Yeah.
layer 8 unlocked, you can go ahead and do it on an alt. You can't do that in normal Torghast. So that's really interesting. I would like to see a mode or a reward system later on, which reminds of the Mage Towers, where every class or every spec has something unique to unlock, um, and which would, potentially later be unobtainable. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah. So with the rewards, I think we actually covered the account-wide unlocks. It was really popular.
Mm-hmm.
Side tip: also don't turn the brokers into anima cells. That article is also very popular. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah. So with the rewards, I just think that there's so many floors, and there aren't very many. And if they're gonna add an account-wide progress where you could do like one layer on maybe like a DPS, and then you're like, oh, actually, I want to do this on my tank character, my alt. It just feels like it would lend itself well to maybe class specific rewards or
Mm-hmm.
different types of rewards. Because for some people right now, it's like, oh my god, there's so much Torghast, like it takes forever, and I don't get much. But then on the other end, you have people that are like, oh, I really like Torghast. I wish I could do this on alts, but I already have the few rewards. So I think adding more not non-essential progression rewards to the mix would be good. Like, obviously don't tie a legendary or an epic to it, but fluffy things I think could be useful. Maybe those Maw armor sets that we keep data mining.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that would be cool to see. Like at least you would feel compelled to maybe do it on a few different classes then.
Yeah, definitely. I would really like to see that happen, and I can still see it being possible to happen. I don't think it's too late at all for that. So I'm hoping that Blizzard has that in mind and would potentially add those things in the future. Perhaps in a real endless mode where the floors just keep on going and going until you happen to uh, die or something. I don't know. At the same time, I can imagine it's really, really crazy to try and balance that too, because after 18 floors, you have so many powers. Like, imagine you going to floor 100. You're you'd be so strong, you'd probably one shot everything. So at that point, like, what even happens? I don't know. I'm not
I
sure if it has the
remember,
same playability as Proving Grounds in terms of endless
yeah,
mode.
like I know as far as proving grounds and balance, like there was, I think it was mages, there were certain, or like I think resto druids were another, there were certain classes that could progress further than others in their challenge. And I don't remember there being a lot of complaining like, oh, like this class can get up to, like difficulty 50, while this class can get up to 60 because there's no real tangible reward for it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think they need to worry about like who can get super far in infinity mode,
Mm-hmm.
because it's very specialized. But I do see your concern that if you start one-shotting things, then how do it gets weird to balance, if you start having anima powers do weird combinations of things. But I
Yeah.
like the idea of endless mode. I think the community liked that with proving grounds, and that
Mm-hmm.
scaled up really well, and was pretty simple.
Maybe the word balance is the wrong word from my end. What I mean is, how do you create some kind of challenge or some kind of,
Oh, I see.
like, because at that point I feel like you're so strong that you will probably one shot anything. And how do you make a challenge, rather? How do you make a challenge out of that when you're at floor 100 plus, when you have
Right,
so many powers? I don't, yeah, I don't think, like you said, that balance itself should be an issue because there
right.
shouldn't really be any rewards in it. But I do think that if there is an endless mode, they could potentially not care and just go have fun, one shot the last boss in on floor 156. I don't care. But maybe then they would have a little bit of focus making sure that it's playable, at least up to level, maybe floor 30 or something, and that's
Hmm.
where they would give the reward to all the different specs or classes. I guess that could work. I'm just thinking how crazy. I guess it's the idea of, how we, from one expansion to another one, our numbers just go so crazy as we gear
Right.
up. And so imagine that, but sped up into like one little Torghast. Like you start hitting for 1,000,
Right.
and then later you're hitting for like 1
Yeah,
billion.
you want Torghast to keep feeling like a challenge, not as you go further, it gets easier. So
Yeah.
maybe they could do a scaling aura on mobs like Mythic Plus, where like they have more health on as you go higher up, they have like more health and defense, something like that. Um, But yeah, I just hope they do more with Torghast because there's a lot of potential. And another thing I've seen, I believe, is people talking about wanting to level in Torghast, maybe on alts.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So that could be interesting if people are, I think just open it up. It's a new type of game system, and I feel like they should utilize it for more types of things.
Yeah, I mean, we're able to do dungeons for leveling, so
Yeah,
yeah, I think that
and
should
now the
be okay.
bonus objectives with Threads of Fate. So
Mm-hmm.
so what do you think of the timing of this? Because we've said at the start of the show that this has felt like a pretty dry time for news. And a lot of people have wondered why Twisting Corridors felt delayed. Do you think that maybe it seemed earlier on, the way the quest was sped up, that we were going to get Torghast in like mid-December, but then Blizzard really staggered the quest? Do you think that maybe Blizzard predicted there would be like this lull before BlizzCon line, and they decided to move Twisting Corridors there to give people something to do? Like, does it make sense that this was so delayed, or do you think it should have been earlier?
I think from my perspective of it, it's felt like it makes sense because not only did we have mythic things going on for the
Mm-hmm.
people who are following the races, we also had the holidays, and we had an expansion that was just delayed in general. So a lot of things just happened in a short amount of time. The game itself has lots and lots of new systems that we are sort of trying to get accustomed to. We are discovering new parts of our covenant every week. We're increasing our renown. Going down the soulbind trees, and there's still things to, I guess, find in the game. So for me, it feels like the timing was okay. It felt like a good time, and I think they also anticipated it to be that way, and that's why they waited with it a little bit. And not only that, I think people have also been very excited with gearing, because now you don't get as much gear as you used to.
Mm-hmm.
So it's made it feel a little bit more meaningful, and people are very excited about the Great Vault as well, because it's a whole new idea of being able to pick your piece from multiple choices. And also, something which I think is a great positive too is that it seems like a lot of people have newly discovered PvP, and I
Oh
think
yeah, to upgrade their gear, yeah,
yes,
and get their weapon.
yes. So this whole idea of using PvP to get gear, even if you're not a PvPer, hasn't been that big of a thing in the past, but now it definitely is, because every type of rating gives you some kind of gear, even if you're at the lowest tier, which is at 1,400 rating. Even that is considered an upgradable rank. So it's been quite exciting for everyone. And with less gear in other sources, people do go ahead and, buy some PvP gear. Even the base item level is 200, so it's not that bad. And I think with having that as well, people, testing out the waters in all kinds of different places, has kept the game pretty busy, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah, I would also say that Blizzard had the Torghast balancing issues in mid-December, and they were, you know, nerfing it and buffing it, and they did that interview on it. So I think that they needed to sort that out before getting Twisting Corridors live. And in their interviews,
That's
they were
true.
talking about how uh, people felt that 7 and 8 were too difficult, and there weren't any indicators being like, hey, you should be this geared up to try the highest difficulty. People assume they should just be able to do whatever. And I think that if you release Twisting Corridors early, people would be in a similar place of being confused why they, were unable to clear it, or, I'm spending days in Torghast and I'm, struggling. So I think that launching it when people had some time to gear up was the right choice.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, that said, I do think having slightly more rewards, you know, would have made sense as well. And
From
it was a
Torghast?
little, yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
it was a little sad that due to how some glitches let some people do quests faster than others, some people unlocked Twisting Corridors a week early through no fault of their own. Like, there's been a lot of little like glitchy things in Shadowlands where someone's like, oh, I have like one more renown or I have one more
I
this.
heard about
And
that. Yeah.
it was definitely weird when someone's like, oh, I'm in Twisting Corridors and like I saw this Sylvanas cinematic and you're like, what? Like, how did this happen?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously they delayed the expansion as much as they could, but it does feel bad when bugs like this come up where some people can access, new content faster than others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, but yeah, why don't we actually talk about this cinematic, which I don't think we were expecting, but as I'm sure you've all seen based on the video numbers, when when you get very late in the Torghast quest line, you rescue everyone else, but when you get to Anduin, he is really deep inside Torghast, and he's not having a fun time. So why don't we watch the cinematic? And we can discuss it a little bit.
I think that sounds like a good idea. Let's check it out.
Sire Denathrius has been taken prisoner. What is our plan to recover him?
Every soul has its purpose. Denathrius has fulfilled his. We must forge our next weapon.
He's not ready.
Then a more direct approach is necessary. We have not come this far, only to falter now. You know what must be done.
There she is again. You know, these endless lectures of yours
Have failed to convince you. Regardless, the conversation is over. One way or another, we will have you. So I will offer this one last time. Join our cause, or be made to serve.
What kind of choice is that? Why even give me? It's the choice you never had. Despite all your grand designs, there's still some shred of your mortality haunting you. As if the Banshee Queen hasn't entirely eclipsed the Ranger General.
Don't.
Now I understand why you brought me here. Why you've tried so hard to persuade me. Because if you can get me to let go of hope, you finally can too.
Enough! Submit! You are only making this harder on yourself.
Not harder on me. Right now, you hold all the power. How will you use it?
I've not come this far to falter now.
Then why do you hesitate? Make your choice, Sylvanas Windrunner.
There it is.
So
We're not still muted.
this was
Right? No.
Oh,
Okay, good,
I don't-
good.
test. So
Yeah, test, hello.
hey,
But yeah, that was
So,
a pretty
wow.
big one and a long one too. A lot of details and different sceneries, not just the one place and one moment, but multiple moments being captured there.
Yeah, I think when we discussed the little cutscene where the character is overhearing Sylvanas and the jailer, and we were wondering, it seems that Sylvanas was hesitant about what the jailer had planned for Anduin, and now we see this come to a clash where he's impatient, he wants things his way,
Yep.
and there's a lot of really I really like this because it's a lot of quiet moments, but the visuals, like Anduin doesn't turn into anything. Like the jailer doesn't attack Sylvanas, but the tension is very high stakes. And even though the characters might be quiet or just having conversations, the visual poses are reminiscent of past epic cinematics like the Lich King. So it's very serious, very high stakes conflict.
Oh
Like when
yeah.
Sylvanas holds out the rune blade at the end and is too afraid to. Well, we don't know if she does anything with it. That just was like the classic Arthas pose from the Wrath trailer when he's raising Sindragosa. Um, and you're like, wow, is she really being turned into a character that she, hated for so many years? And does she realize this? Like, is she starting to realize this, and that's why she's now hesitating?
Yep.
Because Anduin seems to realize that Sylvanas is very bitter that she was not given a choice in Undeath, and now she thinks she was doing the right thing by giving Anduin a choice, and it's like, oh, so she's trying to, be the Lich King and giving people a choice on who to willingly do something or not. And it's interesting because I don't think Sylvanas knows that the jailer is tied to Frostmourne.
No,
And
that doesn't seem to be the case. And then it makes you
yeah.
wonder, once she does learn that, is that going to mean something?
Right, like you have to wonder if she's now thinking like, like he just made this weapon that looks very icy and spiky. Like,
Mm-hmm.
well, how did he do that? Because if he made Frostmourne and is was tied to the creation of the Lich King, then that means that he was responsible for what happened to Sylvanas. So he's not someone offering free will and this alternate fate. He sort of orchestrated, like he puppeted her into this position.
Exactly.
So I feel like the story with Sylvanas is going to go in that direction where she realizes that the jailer was actually masterminding like her destiny all along, which could be interesting. I mean, this cinematic was amazing. I just feel like her story being so like mysterious and doing all these horrible things in BFA, it's like you still need to do a lot to balance out how sort of that was.
Yeah, it does feel a little bit strange if suddenly Sylvanas becomes like the good one. She's the one who's been
Yeah.
fighting justice this whole time and not realizing the bad things that were happening, and she was played into this, and then she learns it, and then she'll act differently, because this doesn't in any way explain or excuse her actions, for example, in Teldrassil. Like, how does this mean that, oh, that action is now understandable?
Yeah, I mean, almost as a tangent, this might be controversial, but I almost feel like her story would have been smoother if you didn't have BFA. Like, if you just saw her
Yeah, I agree.
mysteriously doing stuff in Stormheim, she doesn't get the lantern to have forsaken immortality. We see her, plotting in the background, and we're like, gee, her plans got messed up. What did she do with Helia? And then we see her, and then it's like at the end of Legion she's gone, and we're like, what happened to her? And then it's like she's off doing Shadowlands things. I feel like that would have been a more believable or less controversial arc for her, as opposed to like, oh, Sylvanas is a big fan of free will, time to kill everyone. It's or
Yeah,
just keep her in mystery for 2 years.
yeah.
um
I agree, actually. If
yeah.
BFA could have just been skipped there, I think her story could have made better sense if it is a sort of redemption arc that is going to happen. Because this way it feels like a big mess.
Yeah, and they even said in interviews, I think there was something, I believe with Wrathgate, they said in like during BFA that, oh, like Sylvanas knew more about Wrathgate than you thought. And it's like, well, you could have like hyped that up as more of like a kind of morally gray thing she was involved in, or some of her past actions, as opposed to being like, oh, now we have to go full fourth war. I just feel it could be handled differently. But we have what we have, and let's talk about Anduin a little bit. We've discussed that Sylvanas and the Lich King had obvious visual parallels, but it really feels they want to turn Anduin into the Lich King, and maybe using him as a puppet in the same way they used Arthas,
Mm-hmm.
someone with a strong connection to the light, a young prince, giving him this weapon that seems to like sort of mind control them. And it's just like, what is it about the light that makes the jailer like want to latch onto these characters and corrupt them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a very interesting point as well, because if we have the jailer who has already sort of done this, there must be a reason that he specifically wants somebody who is connected to the light, and maybe Sylvanas isn't completely convinced yet. I don't know. Do you think it's possible that Sylvanas does realize the connection there?
I feel like Sylvanas at this point doesn't know the connection.
No.
I think that she has respect for Varian, and she feels that pushing Anduin into being this Lich King is the wrong thing. And Anduin is like constantly striking a nerve,
Mm.
reminding her that she's like kind of still human and messy. Um, I do think that if she thinks about the blade, she'll start realizing that there's more to it. Like the more she starts questioning things, then I think things fall apart, because like whenever she talks to the jailer, it's like, this is the plan, things are set. They talk about free will, but it's actually very narrow thinking. And every time Anduin questions her, then her resolve falters. So if she has to actually think about like, where did he get this blade, and the
Yeah.
Morn blade, gee, that sounds similar to Frostmourne, then I think she's going to run into some doubts. And I mean, she might not even turn totally good. It could just be like, everything is horrible. Like, I want to just burn everything down,
Mm-hmm.
just try go against all sides.
And,
So
and
that's
it's
how I think it's going to play out.
it's really interesting also how Anduin just with words manages to kind of catch her off guard, I guess. We see Sylvanas as always being very confident, very sure with what she's doing, what she's saying, and he manages to catch her in a moment of uncertainty, I guess,
Yeah,
is maybe the
which
word.
I think it's very good to see Anduin like this, because Anduin isn't a great fighter, and he's not a great strategist, but he has a lot of empathy and charisma. And I think Varian even said that like Anduin always trying to find the good in people or understand them and talk, like that was a great skill he had.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it makes Anduin seem like a more well-rounded, likable character. If in BFA it was always Anduin is making a bad battle choice, or he seems naive, or doesn't understand how the military worked, or people are always upset with him. And now it's like, well, now we can actually see Anduin come into his own, and how he has this like unshakable faith, and by trying to um understand and keep his calm around Sylvanas, it unsettles her in a way that no one else has.
Yeah, unsettled.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the exact expression. And speaking of expressions, I have to say this cinematic was really great with showing facial expressions. I think seeing Sylvanas's face when the jailer was talking to her, her realizing that it's time. There's no way to convince him that we need some more time. I have to do this now. And then speaking to Anduin, starting very, very strong, but then going into this sort of unsettled expression as Anduin is kind of breaking down her thought process.
Mm.
And I thought that was really interesting.
Like,
And
he gets more confident over time, where he's like
yes,
taunting her, like,
and she
do
goes
the thing. Why
opposite
are you
way.
hesitating?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
um like she is holding this weapon of the jailer with all this power, but he is the one in chains that is sort of just making her very unsettled and unsure what to do. So I didn't put this in the notes, but I think we should discuss it. The follow-up quests and dialogue in Oribos. Bolvar pays for this vision by the Helm of Domination, and the jailer try to mind control him again, and we subdue things, beat them back. And then there's also an interesting conversation with Kalia and Jaina after. And this also ties into what we were saying, how no one really knows the connection with the jailer and the Lich King, and we get hints here and there. The jailer through the helm is saying that Bolvar, you were to herald my coming. Instead, you defied me, a failure, like those who came before you. And that clearly refers to, you know, the other Lich Kings like Arthas. And it's like, well, Arthas was a failure because the remaining bit of his humanity didn't unleash all the undead onto us, and he allowed us to kill him in Icecrown. So was he a failure? You know, like, you know, he had his own agenda as opposed to the jailer. It's just interesting because I don't think Sylvanas is aware of this legacy the jailer set up, and certainly on Azeroth, we always thought the Lich King was like the big deal. We didn't know he had like a boss in the Shadowlands. Which could be, you know,
Lich King
because like,
had
you
a
know,
boss.
yeah, I mean, like Blizzard has been adding lore to details, so maybe 10 years ago there actually wasn't a boss for the Lich King. But yeah, I just found that very interesting, how Bolvar was a pawn, and because Bolvar resisted and did his own thing, then the jailer needed to pivot to Sylvanas to break the helm, which you know, served his wishes. So Sylvanas thinks that, you know, she's doing free will and she's working with the jailer, but the jailer, like, he's just viewing her as a means to an end because all the past Lich Kings have been failures in some points. And of course, Sylvanas is not aware that, you know, Bolvar is being yelled at by the helm. I also thought this part was interesting as a follow-up, and it makes me wonder if we're going to see Arthas either in a cinematic or Twisting Corridors. There's an interesting follow-up conversation where Kalia says, "The specter of my brother hangs over all of us like a shroud. His choices were his own, though it does seem his fate was shaped in part by the hand of the jailer." And then Talia says, "My father's fate as well. The helm, that blade, were the instruments of the jailer all along." And then Jaina says, "The runes on Frostmourne were a type of magic not seen on Azeroth before the Lich King, but that same power is woven into the very fabric of the Maw and Torghast." So, and then it again, like we saw in Afterlife's Bastion, it calls into question, like, what was Arthas doing on his own versus was he mind controlled by Frostmourne, if the helm and blade were instruments of the jailer? And then that makes you wonder, well, you know, what did Bolvar do that maybe Bolvar didn't want to do? Or was Sylvanas even, you know, manipulated when she had her bargain? You know, was there some part of the jailer controlling her as well? And that could even tie into, like, not an Arthas redemption story, but I think it could be interesting to revisit his character, because Afterlife's Bastion made it seem like Arthas should not have gone to the Maw.
Yeah.
And like that was, you know, maybe in retrospect, once Arthas picked up Frostmourne, he was just like a puppet of the jailer with a strong sense of pride, but still a puppet. And his actions were done, you know, following the jailer's will, not his own. So I think that would be interesting. Especially if, you know, they're trying to turn Anduin into the Lich King, and it's like,
yes,
man, so many
there's
Lich
too
King
many
characters.
links here. Yeah, exactly. And even during BFA, we had a couple cinematics there that were direct references to Arthas back in the day as well. So I definitely think that we are going to see Arthas very soon. I don't know how soon, but very soon. And I'm really, really curious to see in what way that will happen. And also in all of this that's going on as well, where will Tyrande come in?
Yeah, so that is interesting because Arthas is in the Maw.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, if he's in the Maw and the jailer's base of operations is on the Maw, you'd think that, like, the former Lich King would want to, you know, do something with the jailer or be, you know, drawn to the Maw magic. It seems like you guys should keep an eye on him. And then, yeah, with Tyrande, I mean, I assume her story will continue in the Covenant campaign in 9.1, but even if yeah, I figure that she wants to do something with her Night Warrior magic to get vengeance on Sylvanas, or
Mm-hmm.
even in the bigger picture, she cares a lot about the fate of the Night Elves. Like we saw with the Nathanos cinematic, it's not just about like defeating a member of the enemy. Like, Sourfang's death did not make her feel better. Nathanos' death, it's, she needs
Yeah.
to, it's like a bigger, like systemic, rebuilding of the Night Elf Empire. So, I don't think you can just solve that immediately. But yeah, her story does need to progress so you can get to a point where you discuss, like, okay, she's got her powers, she
Mm-hmm.
got her cool cinematic. Now, how can they, rebuild? Like, will the tree grow back? Because it definitely feels like the Ardenweald tree is like a parallel to the trees we have with the Night Elves,
Mm-hmm.
like a center tree that could be in danger of dying. Like visually it looks very similar. It definitely seems like we need to have a big resolution for her as well. And I think it would be sad if like Arthas came back and all of a sudden it's like, oh, Tyron's story boring, let's not cover.
I think another kind of outcome that could be interesting. We have seen how determined Tyrande is. She wants to get to Sylvanas. What if she reaches Sylvanas at the point where, I guess, so to speak, a redemption arc has been made? So then maybe at that point, most people have been convinced that Sylvanas actually meant well with everything somehow. I don't know how, but maybe somehow. And then Tyrande is in this situation where she wants to just kill her there on the spot, but then there's people around her saying, no, don't do it. And then maybe she does it anyways. So I don't
Right.
know.
Or maybe, yeah. I mean, I'm not sure if we get to a point where we're like, oh, Sylvanas, you made sense. But like, what if Sylvanas realizes the jailer is bad and it's like, oh, we could have a chance of, defeating
Defeating the
Sylvanas,
jailer.
but we
Oh.
need to keep her alive so we have a chance at defeating the jailer.
Yes, exactly. What if Sylvanas becomes the only way for us to solve this issue that we are facing?
Right.
Like in one way where it becomes a thing where we actually need her help, and maybe she is willing to help as well because of some kind of realization. I don't know.
Yeah.
The whole thing is such a mess, though.
Yeah, like we'll discuss later in the show. It's like normally at this point we know what's happening in the first patch or even the second patch, but we're just like we don't know what comes next. It's all uncharted territory, which is kind of exciting.
Mm-hmm.
So, a few more Torghast things. This was very popular over the weekend. We wanted to highlight some other things that happen when you do twisting corridors. And something unexpected but fun is that two characters show up after twisting corridors, Admiral Taylor and Grifta.
Mm-hmm.
And Admiral Taylor is interesting because he was a well-liked Alliance character that was very relatable because he like worked his way up through the ranks of the Alliance, kept getting like job promotions, doing more and more stuff. So like he sort of leveled up with the players until he met his end in Warlords of Draenor,
Yeah, because
his
he was with us
garrison.
over multiple expansions too.
Yeah, he started in Vashj'ir in Cataclysm, and then as Captain Taylor, then in Miss he was Admiral Taylor throughout Pandaria, and then in Warlords he had a bad deal in Spires of Erech and died.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of fun items with him throughout the years, like related to Blizzard awards. And he references that in his emotes. He says, "To think I was less than a year away from earning my helmet," Admiral Taylor sighs despite no longer needing to breathe. And if you look at the history of items named Admiral Taylor, they all have little flavor text like awarded for 5 years of distinguished service, or the heirloom ring is awarded for 15 years of distinguished service. And Blizzard gives you these cool rewards for 5, 10, 15, and 20 years that are a sword, shield, ring, and then Lich King helm. So Admiral Taylor is really sad that he passed away and went to Shadowlands after 19 years of being in the Alliance, so he doesn't get his special helm from Stormwind.
Mm-hmm.
So I just thought that was kind of a funny
It is a funny
touch.
little detail, yeah. Because these are
Yeah.
real rewards for people who have worked for
Yeah.
Blizzard. So
Yeah.
you get this physically if you've been working for
Mhm.
Blizzard for 20 years, and
Yeah.
he served the Alliance for 19. So that's a shame. Now he didn't get his helm mailed to his house.
Yeah, well, he can go see Bolvar's broken helm in
In
Orbos.
Orbos, yeah.
Yeah, he can see the real thing.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, I think maybe this was an example of when Blizzard talked about little polish moments they added to the game with their extra time, like adding more references.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, maybe something like this, obviously it's not essential for Twisting Corridors. Like you have to make sure the quest where, Sylvanas and Bolvar are there, that's the most important thing. But I think just adding little polish that if as you spend more time in Oribos and do things, you can interact with more characters. I think that is a nice touch that is appreciated,
Mm-hmm.
and people, especially older players, react really well to that nostalgia.
For sure.
And then on the Horde
More
side,
Torghast.
we have Grifta, who he's with the brokers in Oribos,
Mm-hmm.
which Grifta is not selling any of his goods, but we can imagine that this could be a setup for funny things in the future because, Grifta likes to sell people junk, and the brokers are kind of sketchy with many connections. The brokers were the ones that brought Wintervale to the event there. So you can see how Grifta might have some fun interactions with them. And I think it would be funny. Yes, it seems like they would just sort of drive each other up a wall. Or Grifta being like, "Oh, I'll bring you deals from, Azeroth," and he's
Yeah.
giving them, garbage. But it would be fun if he had more Shadowlands things for sale. And then our final Torghast thing is something that I think most people forgot about. And there are special events. Yes. There are special events in Torghast that they announced at BlizzCon, and we data mined, and then everyone forgot about. And it seems that there's going to be one, they're going to be a week and one per month. And the one for January, starting tomorrow, is called Beasts of Progadum? It's a beast-themed Torghast event. And we don't know too much about it. It was tested very briefly, but there was so much other stuff going on. And basically, your first Maw power chest gives you control of a Maw beast that fights alongside you, and you can get Maw powers to modify the beast and give it more special abilities, like simple damage done increases, or movement speed, or maximum health. Lots of different things. And there are 3 different beasts that each have different benefits. Like one does AoE damage, while another can stun and taunt things. So that apparently will last for a week. It is. Oh, we have our own Maw beast. We have Brightpaw. Brightpaw, say hello.
Yeah, Brightpaw is our beast into this.
Yes. Yes. My little Torghast cat.
Aww. Yes, you get to
yeah.
choose one of the 3 beasts as you go in.
We're not sure how it works, but there are 3 possible ones. He's off. There's 3 different beasts. I suppose if you don't like the one, you can reset it and try the run again, and then until you get the one you want.
Maybe you get to pick one even.
Yeah.
We don't know yet.
But yeah, we're not sure. But there's like one that is a dog that can stun enemies. Then there's one that's a soul hunter that can howl and buff your allies. So maybe that's like the group one you want. And then there is a soul eater that does AoE damage and silences enemies. So maybe you want that if, I don't know, you're doing something solo or you need more DPS. And yeah, right now it's unclear if there are special rewards for doing this or if these are just a way to like spice up your run and add variety to your weekly layer clear. I guess if there's no rewards, it just sort of ties back into the general Torghast discussion of, should there be more rewards? Like, should you get a Maw battle pet for doing this, or maybe this complicates your run, so maybe the reward should be better during this week.
I saw some discussions on Twitter, and I forgot who the discussion was between, or maybe it was just randoms. I don't remember. But it was suggested that Stygia should be a reward, and then it's like, oh, so you basically want islands back, where we have to farm to get the sockets. That was quite funny.
Yeah, some people being like they wanted this to be like islands with rewards, not only for the currency, but also for having a greater variety of things you can get from doing it. Because like with islands, every type of island had certain like transmog sets or mounts or pets unique to that island. And I guess people would like it if different Torghast layers had any mob in a certain wing or whatever could drop, I don't know, a certain pile of transmogger mounts.
Or maybe unlock upgrades for the Maw. You know how when you're in the Maw, you get to get upgrades for Torghast? Maybe in Torghast you get upgrades for the Maw. That would be great.
Yeah. Blizzard did say in one of the recent interviews, I think maybe it was the Sloot one, I can't remember. It was one of the December ones, how, people are moving on to other things besides the Maw, but they do have more content planned for it. So maybe now it would be like boring, but I could see that being useful in a patch to keep things interesting if people have more reasons to return to the Maw.
Yeah. I think I'd like to see things like instant mount in combat. That'd be great.
Yeah. But yeah, it would be interesting if there was some reward for this, because like, I don't know if Blizzard's watching this, but people did not know about this when I made the post. Everyone forgot that this
when existed. I saw this today, I was like, oh.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Like no one tested it. Everyone was just like, "Oh, this is interesting." So yeah, definitely need to hype this up more to get people aware that there's something to do. And also the data mined other events. There's the Chorus of Dead Souls, which is February, and then Unbridled Darkness, which is March. So. You have to wonder if is Blizzard planning some big content in April, or are they just gonna like rotate as one event every month, so you will see them like 4 times each year. So are we gonna see Beasts back in April, for example?
Yeah, it might be on a rotation of some sort.
Yeah. But yeah, interesting. Definitely something people forgot about.
And it starts tomorrow, I assume, for NA only, and then for EU it would be the day after. So yeah, we'll definitely check it out and see what it means, what's going on.
Yeah. So I think for this next part we should put up a spoiler tag briefly, because we're talking about the Night Fae campaign, and while that's live for the Night Fae, 75% of you probably aren't Night Fae, and we should probably, it might be a spoiler for you guys.
Spoiler tag is up. So the Covenant campaigns are nearing their end. And with that, we have a little bit of a dive into what's going on, because the Night Fae one in particular is quite interesting, as we get to see some insights with Vol'jin and Muazzala.
Yeah, so I think we've data mined that Muazzala was the one who told Vol'jin, to appoint Sylvanas war chief, but we actually get to see that. It's no longer, oh yeah, we data mined this line. It was gonna send your soul to the Maw, but your bond to this world was too hard to break. Let's see, finding the exact line. Yeah, basically, I'm finding the exact line in this. Muazzala says, "You don't be stopping the jailer. He be working his plans for a long time." Vol'jin says, "The voice whispering as the poison be burning in my veins." Windrunner. Muazzala says, "Oh, you like my whispers. I was going to send you to the Maw myself, but your bond to this world was too hard to break." And then Vol'jin says, "It be me who named Sylvanas war chief, but Muazzala and the jailer, they'd be pulling the strings all along." So
Yeah, I remember us data mining this
yeah.
text.
Yeah.
Back in whenever. So it's cool to kind of see it how it plays out in the game itself.
Yeah. And from this exchange, we also learned that Mozala has been imprisoning wild gods in the Maw, which is also very serious. And after this revelation, Vol'jin realizes that he was tricked, but he feels, he feels responsible for what's happened. So he's decided to, go help rescue the wild spirits in the Maw because he feels, responsible for what happened. That he wants to make things right. So, as we're doing that, we come across Razan, the Loa of Kings, who, met a sad end. And he, it's a sort of a tragic end here too, where we're too late to save him, but he gives the remaining essence to Vol'jin, and so now all the speculation about Vol'jin being a Loa are kind of coming true because Vol'jin is a mortal that now has the essence of a Loa. So lots of big implications there. And then the Winter Queen allows him to hibernate and regenerate, turn into the seed, and see if he regenerates and one day is born anew. Which it's like, okay, Vol'jin, like speed it up. Are we gonna see you in 9.1?
Yeah.
Are you gone for the expansion? Are you going to, be helping us in Shadowlands or helping lead the Horde when we leave the Shadowlands? Hopefully nothing bad happens to his wild seed, as we've seen with Ardenweald. It's very stressful with Ursoc and Ysera, very difficult to protect it. So hopefully the jailer, or Mozala won't send their forces to keep attacking Vol'jin's wild seed. But yeah, very interesting story development for him. And I think that Vol'jin's an interesting character that would be good to see more of. Because people really liked him. He seemed very level-headed. We've lost a lot of those characters, like Sourfang is like Sourfang is dead, like Thrall is now like angry with his past. Talanji is sort of younger and more hot-headed. Anduin the same way. Varian isn't around. So I think it's good to have some more mature characters like Vol'jin still there.
Yeah, definitely. And it's funny how we're talking about these characters who are no longer with us, like Sarfang and Varian, but we might actually even meet them in the Shadowlands. Question is how Blizzard will decide to make that happen. It's going to be interesting to see. Because I do believe we will see them in one form or another.
So, I mean, the jailer took Varian's sword and is now turning it into the Mournblades. I assume it was Varian's sword because it looked very similar. I hope they don't try to do something where they bring Varian back or like an image of him to torment Anduin.
Yeah.
Like Varian saying that he's like he's disappointed in him, or they're going to like keep they're gonna keep Varian in the Maw if like Anduin doesn't give in, stuff like that. Or say, oh, this shows how the system is broken, your father died and because of the Legion he wasn't given a hero, stuff, like convincing him that way. Going back to the spoilers with the quest, there is a lot of antagonistic lines between Bwonsamdi, the Winter Queen, and Muzala, and I think we need to learn more about that. Like, why is there beef between both of them? Because it seemed that Bwonsamdi helped Muzala a lot in the past, but something Muzala did put them at odds, and the Winter Queen really doesn't like Bwonsamdi. She's like, thank you, you helped me, you're a lot of trouble, just go.
I've always been so conflicted with Bwonsamdi. Like he's so funny, but I'm just like, can I trust you?
Yeah, it's hard to trust him because like they worked together with Muzala. Like he says in an earlier part, he's like, after all I've been doing for Bwonsamdi, raising him from peace to Loa, giving him the power of death, now he be using it against me. And it's like, why did he have this deal with Muzala if he's
Yeah,
so
what did they do?
horrible?
Mm-hmm.
Why did he help him out in the first place?
Mm-hmm.
And Bwansamdi has a line, I believe, where he's like, oh, like, I've helped him with a lot of stuff, but what he's trying to do in Ardenweald, it crosses a line. And it's like, well, me,
Okay.
what bad things, is there something Bwansamdi doesn't want us to know about that he did
Yeah.
that would make him, like, less likable? So I think we're going to learn more about that in a future Covenant campaign.
Definitely seems like it. Because it was
Yeah.
quite a picture being drawn with the quest line. And I was doing it myself as I am Night Fae. And it was quite fun going through the different areas and talking to Bwansamdi, listening to Bwansamdi.
Yep.
But it's going to be interesting to learn a little bit more about that.
Yeah, especially because he, in his actions in the past, kind of seem heroic, trying to save all of the trolls. But it's like, what convinced him to change his mind? Because when we first see him in the Vol'jin quest line, he seems really worried that he, lost that soul and his boss wouldn't be happy. So what made him decide that his boss was doing the wrong thing so recently?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And even when he was trying to do the right thing, like in Shadows Rising, when he wanted to have Zakan on his side, to foil Nathanos, he like lied to Zakan at first, being like, "Oh, look, Sourfang's so happy. This is the afterlife. You can trust me. I help souls." And then he's like, "Oh, actually, it's a total mess, Zakan." Like, at the very end, it's like the big reveal. It's like, "Oh, you nearly died, and you were sort of sent to hell, and it's actually hell. It's not a nice afterlife." So you have to wonder what nice things Bwansamdi is doing that's just an illusion, or to get his way.
Yeah.
Like, does he have his own motive?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I seriously feel like I can't trust him, but at the same time I like him
No.
because he's funny.
Yes, he's charismatic.
Very
More
charismatic.
villains. It's like Sire Denathrius. You're like, oh,
yes.
well, that's a more extreme example. Like, maybe it's like Ashara, how you can't trust her, but she has done things for her people, even if it's like questionable loyalty motives, but she's just very charismatic even when you're fighting her.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you hate these characters, but you still kind of like them. In the case of people like Sire Denathrius, I think it's a really cool character.
Yeah, maybe he'll come back because he's just chilling in the sword right now.
Yeah, but wasn't the jailer saying something along the lines of he's done his part,
Yeah,
like as if he's done with him?
So I mean, well, that can mean that the jailer's done with him. Like, oh, we're not going to go rescue him, but maybe because the rest of Revendreth is loyal to him and remembered him when he was, probably still a weird, questionable guy, but not following the jailer. They seem to want to believe he has a chance of redemption. So maybe it's like they almost want him to lead Revendreth again.
Yeah, that's true. So you mean maybe the jailer knows that it's not a big problem?
Or maybe the jailer is just like, oh, he served his purpose, like everything is, in despair, he'll just languish, and meanwhile Revendreth will be trying to like nurture him and reinstate him, and the jailer is so like depressing and angry in one note that he doesn't believe in hope or like redemption. So the jailer is just like, oh, we don't need to find Denathrius. We don't need to save him or take him to the Maw. Like, he's done for. Everyone must hate him. Just like let him languish. But then meanwhile, the Venthyr are like, oh, like you're actually a nice ruler. Like, maybe eventually you can atone, type thing.
Could that have?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, you finished that.
I was just saying, it seems like Sylvanas and the jailer are like, they don't like the idea of hope and change. Like, it confuses them. So, and they're not able to predict like people being sentimental or trying to save or help each other. But it seems that the Venthyr were trying to do that for Denathrius. Like, they defeated him, but instead of just like torturing him or throwing him into the Maw, they wanted to give him this second chance.
Oh yeah.
And multiple characters did that. It was like Prince Renathal and the General. They both sort of expressed like sympathy or almost nostalgia. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. because they were even now where almost no time has even passed, and they're already showing that they believe that he'll be back to normal. So that was actually really interesting. But I wonder what kind of implications, because obviously they're putting this line in there for a reason. So it's interesting to see whether this could mean that perhaps Denathrius will be mad at the jailer later for not helping him get out sooner, for example.
Yeah, I mean, Denathrius certainly did a lot with all the anima, and maybe there were promises like, oh, I'm doing all this for you because I'm betraying things because you have promised me something very good. And now it's like they're not even rescuing their major ally responsible for draining all the anima in Shadowlands. Like that's not very loyal, and maybe it should make Sylvanas worried too.
Yeah,
because it seems that the Denathrius was around for a while, and the jailer doesn't seem very loyal to him. And will she be discarded easily if she falters in something she's doing?
And wasn't the topic mentioned from Sylvanas? Like she was the one who...
Yeah.
Wasn't she the one who asked what's going to happen with him next? I'm not 100% sure.
Let me pull up the dialogue again. Oh, yeah. Sylvanas says, Sire Denathrius has been taken prisoner. What is our plan to recover him?
Exactly.
Like,
she was
loyal.
already
She's
set.
Like, he's one of ours. Like, it's not, are we? It's like, what is the plan?
Yeah. It's not even a question. It's not even...
Right.
Yeah, like you said, it's not even are we? It's what is the plan? I thought that was interesting. There might be something to do... might be some implications with that specifically that might mean something more later.
Yeah, and it's just interesting how the jailer seems to pick up allies and discard them. Again, going back to the Lich King, it's like all of you in the past were failures. Like it's not about working together and having the coalition get their demands. It's just characters serving him, and then he discards them when he can't get anything more from them. So it would be interesting if he ever tires of Sylvanas. Because I'm sure she will not be very happy, because she views this almost as like equal footing, which is another funny thing. Like you don't see any like big bad characters following them around. It's just the jailer and Sylvanas, and you might wonder, like, he's been here for millennia. Like he has no allies standing next to him, just me. Like it's all characters that have met strange fates or have been in prison. Like that's not a very good track record.
Yep.
And yeah, so
I think that might have been it on the lore part, and we could maybe take the spoiler tag down.
Yeah, just as a reminder with the campaign, the final chapter we know of is next week. That should unlock a soulbind, the new soulbind, the third one. So maybe more interesting covenant choices as a result. And there's also a mount I believe you can buy with Renown next week too.
Oh yeah, and the gear upgrades.
Yeah, for both the Covenant armor as well as more PvP upgrades to 197.
Yep.
So that's pretty good. So we just wanted to close with some discussion topics. The first was Blizzard has announced a new round of class tuning going live with the weekly reset, and that has led some people to say, oh, wouldn't it be nice if they maybe fixed some other things or did tuning to other parts of the game. And just wondering what your thoughts were, because obviously the adventure troop balance is something that is always a hot topic, and now people are amassing a lot of troops, and there's still a lot of complaints that it doesn't feel good. So should Blizzard look into maybe balancing troop strength or acquisition, because that it should have balanced out by now, and it doesn't seem to be.
Yeah, I feel like the missions in general is a mess. So being Night Fae means that, hey, you're so lucky you can actually beat everything. Wait, let me remove this spoiler tag first.
Yeah. Adventures are not spoilers.
Yeah, spoiler tag down. We're talking about adventures or missions in your covenants now. And
sorry about the noise, that was his paw.
That's okay. Your camera slide. Never mind. It was blurry for a moment, but it's okay now. And yeah, we were talking about the missions, yes. And I wanted to say that I've been on, I guess you could call the lucky side, where I can just put my Dreamweaver and 4 trappers and basically win everything. Get through all the campaigns, and now I think I have 3 out of 4 mounts or something like that. And everything would, from the outside seem amazing, and everyone wants to be Night Fae too because it's so easy as Night Fae. Well, from my point of view, unless I put a Dreamweaver and 4 trappers, none of my missions can actually be completed. Everything is a suicide mission because all my other followers are so low level, and if not low level, just generally weak, that they fail everything. So I'm sitting there with level 30 followers on average. My missions are now level 60, and I can't complete anything. I was able to complete and get the mounts, but I can't complete normal quests. I'm no longer getting the missions that give bonus XP because the game thinks that I'm now, max level, because surely I must be if I got this far. So I'm just sitting there, sending my troops on suicide missions every day, hoping to get some experience for them sitting there for hours and hours.
He's whacking the microphone with his tail.
Yeah.
It was making microphone noises.
Yeah.
That's what he thinks of the mission system.
Yep.
What I was also going to say, that the UI, even if you balance stuff, I think that the UI is very confusing and it needs more guidance, because you can easily mess things up. It's very unclear what's the difference between like how you should organize your troops or what they will be attacking. The missions themselves, it's difficult to know which you want to complete. Like some normal and elite ones seem to give the same experience and rewards, and a casual player would be like, oh, the harder one has the same one as the easier one. I don't want to do this. Or some will say, these are tied to the campaign, but they don't really tell you what that means. And there's a lot of confusing parts. Maybe they were rushed with this. Maybe it was just like another thing to balance. They didn't really get around to prioritizing, and they just assumed it would be like a phone game on the side, because BFA missions were very kind of, not very hype. But it definitely, because it's tied to Soul Ash, I think people have been noticing the imbalances more.
Yeah, for sure. And the vanity part of it with the mounts as well. People want to get the mounts, and they feel like if they didn't pick Night Fae, they can't get it. Yet, at least.
It definitely seems to be like a vibe of like, oh, if I had done my Soul Ash missions, I could have crafted a legendary this week versus next week. And it just makes people like feel bad that they've missed out on something, being the wrong covenant.
And we're still gaining or getting new followers still. Like I got a new follower.
Torghast.
Yeah, in Torghast. And it's not really fun, Blizzard, to get a level 1 follower when all my missions are level 60.
Yeah.
Like, please. I don't want to send on suicide missions for the next 2 months. I also want to be able to complete some missions for, smaller rewards, sure, but something. And yeah, speaking of the XP thing as well, the base experience isn't very clear what you get when you put your troops on a mission as well. That's actually why I use an add-on, because it shows me how much experience you get. And then you also see how, putting your troops on a 13-hour mission will give you more XP than like a 4-hour mission, at least the baseline XP.
Right.
Just little things like that. There's definitely a lot more things that could be clearer on the UI.
Yeah, another thing that might be interesting to have some balancing, and they actually hotfixed one part of this, is the anima conductor, because for the Necro Lords, they made it so one of the level 2 rewards, I think, gave you a ton of anima, and there wasn't an equivalent for the other 3. And instead of buffing the rewards, Blizzard nerfed Necro Lord, and people are like, oh, well, it would have made sense to buff because this is the anima conductor and we get anima. And I think like there's just like a lot of confusion with rewards balance with the conductor, what groups have like the best mounts, but also what the anima conductor does, because for some covenants, like you just like click, and then there's like a line and it's glowing, and then it says, resets in 20 hours, and it's like, is this the weekly reset, or what happens? Like, is it gone for good? Do I have to recharge it in 20 hours? Like, there's a lot of confusion with trial and error with the anima conductor as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, for sure.
So maybe those are 9-1 things, but I feel like if people are discussing class tuning, that at least the adventure mission tuning, I don't know, maybe we could see that sooner than later.
And why are the Covenant upgrades still so expensive? I guess because people don't care enough to, voice their opinion on this. So Blizzard is just like, yeah, everyone's happy about this. But the fact that I still haven't really been able to use my Queen's Conservatory is sad.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's because they're focused on like the raid and then the mythic race and the bugs, and they had vacation and they had like the Torghast tuning, and now they've got more Torghast. But it definitely feels like it was overly ambitious to have all these unique Covenant systems and to try to have them be different but still make them feel equally good. And you're running into both UI and content issues
Yeah,
with
it's
them.
just
So
I just don't understand the time gating on something that's just supposed to be silly and fun. Like I want to go in there and start planting things. I want to see what happens.
right.
But it'll cost me
Maybe they're
22
just
redeemed
buying
souls.
maybe they're buying time, because I mean all the games are really different, and have different feels to them, and Ember Court is like super complicated. So
Which one
I
is
don't
that?
know, the Venthyr one
Oh,
with the
okay.
gift and the
Mm.
friendship.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they're like looking to flesh things out more, and they're like they're not all implemented at launch. So maybe that's why they're trying to stagger it. So it's like, oh, you get a taste of this, and then you know 9-1 we're going to add more polish to the systems.
Yeah.
But yeah, they also have like varying degrees of complexity, and some people are even like, well, why should I just do this? Like, is this just for fun? Like, should there be more rewards if it's for fun? Like, I know at least with Bastion you get 2 transmog sets from it, so that feels very straightforward
Mm-hmm.
and like rewarding, but everything is different. But yeah, are there any other things you think you'd like to see like hot fixed or tweaked before a major 9-1 patch? Because even if that Ptr drops today, it's still like a big cycle. Like, are there things you feel need to like happen like before that with a hot fix? Like, I would say mission adjusting a statement on it. I think something like that could be good. Anima UI, maybe a 9-1 thing.
Yeah. Let's see. Mission, anima. What else feels incomplete or messy? Is it true that with higher renown we'll get or was it maybe it was an upgrade? Basically, I just really want my teleport from Covenant to Orbos.
Oh, so at level 3, you can take the portal
From
to
the transportation
Orbos.
system.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it was missing from the Venthyr as a bug, and they added that back.
That's
So that
great.
was good. Yeah. But there's no Flight Master whistle, or there's no
I really want the
there's no
whistle
Flight Master
back.
whistle.
I really want
Yeah,
it
like
back.
I know people were like, "Oh, this is just because like your dailies were spread out and not now they're not," but like, it was still really
Mm-hmm.
helpful if you were like stuck somewhere and couldn't jump out, or if you were
Mm-hmm.
like underwater. It was nice just to have a quick getaway.
Something which
Um,
is minor and probably what most people haven't noticed. So I'm trying to do the PvP quests every day,
mhm.
or not every day. I've been slacking a little bit, but every now and again, because you have to complete each one 20 times to get an achievement. And I have to say that State of Decay, I think that's the one. That's what it's called. The one in Maldraxxus is really annoying. It has a very
Yeah.
low spawn rate of the mobs, and there's barely anyone around. And even if there is anyone around, everything is in a small round tower. So even if there's other people, you may not see them because you're all on different floors. And I don't like that, Blizzard. Can you at least up the the spawn rate of these mobs so I can complete my quest instead of standing there doing nothing? That'd be great.
Yeah,
That's
and
it.
the achievement, I know in Legion, if you did the world quest a bunch, you got a mount just for doing that. And while there's an achievement in Shadowlands, there's not an achievement just tied to doing the world quest. So it
Hmm.
doesn't make sense why it's annoying to complete.
Yeah, compared to the other ones, it's really annoying. All the other ones have like other ways of completing. You don't have to kill players if there isn't anyone around. But not only is it difficult to see players because it's all on different floors, but it's also very, very low spawn rate of the mobs. And the chat just reminded me this is a huge topic, the bugged hunts.
Oh yeah, I think did that just get fixed in the
Really?
7th hotfix? Hold on. Oh yeah, January 7th hotfix. It says I don't know if it's still bugged, but it says fix some issues with missing spawns and incomplete stage progressions in the Beast War and hunts.
Okay.
But that still went on for like over a month. Like we even made a post on it.
Yeah, it was going on for a long time. It's like, oh, the holidays are here, guys. Oh, the game is bugged. Sorry, we'll update it soon. And
Yeah.
I know that some people even completed it, and then they didn't get the credit for it. So then the achievement then later was delayed because they weren't able to get the one that
Right.
they needed. And yeah, I think it was a lot of I think there was a lot of issues.
Yeah, which sort of goes back to what we were saying, how there was like a lot of little max level glitchy stuff, which, maybe on its own, it's like a one-off thing, but then when it's starting to affect things like the Beast Warren hunts or people getting into like twisting corridors a week early, which also means like more soul ash for them, then it's just too bad when you have things like that and you can't force people to work over vacation fixing bugs. I don't think it's right to drop expansions around a vacation, but then it's just like bad for everyone. How
Mm-hmm.
then there's this bug that you know people shouldn't be around to fix, but it's just if the hunts were broken for over a month, and that just feels bad.
Yeah, it definitely felt really bad. But
Yeah.
if it is somewhat fixed now, at least that's a good thing.
Yeah, maybe some of it's fixed, but not all of it. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of which, the Shade Hounds is up in 16 hours. So if you're like, I don't want to do twisting corridors for a mount that works on the Maw, you can try for the event again.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
Um,
I can't wait to get a mount to use in the maw. That's gonna be nice.
yeah, and it's just like another mount for your collections.
Yeah,
So
that too.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
um, But yeah, so for our final topic, at this point we usually have PTR data mining, or we've got something. So like we usually, if there's an expansion in August,
Mm-hmm.
you like a month or two after, you have Ian making a video or a stream announcing the next thing,
Mm-hmm.
or you start to get BlizzCon hype. So even if there's no announcement, you're like, oh, why is Sylvanas in the key art, or you have like Gamescom with something. Or yeah, I mean, with Gamescom in Legion, we learned about Karazhan before the expansion was even out.
Mm-hmm.
Or at BlizzCon, we learned that Ashara was going to be the final boss of Eternal Palace before the expansion came out. But with Shadowlands, we don't have we don't have anything. Like at this point, I remember like with Nighthold, it ended, and like that week we had PTR data mining for the next thing in Legion. And at this point, we don't have anything. Like I'm sure as I'm talking, Blizzard will like spin up a PTR. Um, but
Yeah.
it's normally at this point we've had a few weeks of information already
Yeah.
on what is coming next, if not data mining, at least like Blizzard's own polished preview. So
Mm-hmm.
that leaves the question, like, when do you think we're going to see stuff? Do you think we're going to see data mining in January, or do you think it's going to be like a really short PTR cycle and they're just going to dump a bunch of info at BlizzCon line?
I feel like they are probably purposely leaving a lot of things for BlizzCon line specifically. I think this is a weird time of the year where they haven't really had a show like that in the past. Everything has kind of worked out being at BlizzCon, in time for the quarter 4 to wrap up and everything. But this time, everything happens in February instead. So I think putting out too much in January might be bad, as they want to probably keep some exciting things for that show too, to be more exciting.
I wonder if their philosophy with like testing and then using the PTR for hype has changed over time, because some things you couldn't really test like the full extent of the zombie mess. Like that was testable on the PTR, but that really came into its own on live servers. And we saw with the Race to World First that, yeah, the bosses were all like tested once or twice, but Blizzard made a lot of last minute changes, like months after testing, just leading up to the event. So maybe it's like, well, we don't need to test. There are some things we don't need to test. And maybe they want to, when it's on the PTR, to present a more polished version this time, as opposed to like every little version and incremental change. You don't know, but I am really curious, what's coming next with the raid, because like we've always known what was coming. Like we knew Karazhan before Legion was out. We knew Dazar'alor in a video Ian put out, as well as Crucible of Storms. And even before that, we knew Ashara before the expansion came out. And yeah, we just don't know what is coming next. Yeah. There's been a little bit of speculation that Ouroboros could be a raid, because we've been doing these daily art spotlights on different concept art or models artists at Blizzard upload to ArtStation. And the person who worked on Ouroboros, the main city, Andrew Matthews, he is an environment artist, and his past ArtStation work includes Uldir and Battle of Dazar'alor. So people could say, if he's worked on raids previously, does that mean that maybe Ouroboros is going to be used for some sort of raid where, I don't know, we confront the Arbiter at the end?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting theory as well, because Ouroboros is such a central place for the whole of Shadowlands, and it does feel like if anything is going down, that's where it will happen, and it's like the connection point. And looking at these pictures, it's gorgeous too.
Yeah.
It looks really nice. So it would be interesting if it is a raid, or perhaps it just becomes a sort of dungeon, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, on the other hand, people speculate that, it could be used for multiple things. Like, we had Siege of Borealis, but obviously Borealis is like a city first and foremost. And, it didn't, Dazar'alor had a raid, but it's primarily known as a capital city, a very confusing one. So you can see, like, maybe even if there is some sort of event that takes place in Ouroboros, it's not like the B end and Eldol. It's like it's still going to be a city afterwards. Or like maybe it's just that you have zone artists do outdoor things, but then when you have indoor places, you have a different type of artist work on them. And I could definitely see there, even if it's not used for like a formal raid, I could see it being used for a scenario, because I'm sure we need to solve the mystery of like what is going on with the Arbiter. We have to confront her, or maybe like even in that first cinematic when the red ball hits her and wounds her, like even if we have a scenario reliving that to find more clues, you need to have things set up. It can't just be like a little boring city.
Indeed.
But yeah, so you think that we're not going to really learn much 9-1 stuff, and that's just going to be saved for BlizzCon line? Is that what you think?
I think that we'll get some. I think the fact that we had the delayed expansion and the holidays came in the way, and I think there's been a lot on Blizzard's plate right now in terms of expectations, not just from us, but probably also from like the higher ups. But I do think that they might give us a bit less than what they would normally because of BlizzCon line. But we might still get a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. I know with 8.3... they pushed out the presentation right before BlizzCon because they they wanted to introduce Shadowlands to us, but I think that that's different. Like, I mean, what else would they be announcing at BlizzCon line? Like, they have to announce 9-1. So I definitely think that they could show us a new cinematic, maybe like premiere a new like Sylvanas doing things with like the next step of Sylvanas, the Jailer, and Anduin. Yeah. I think we could get that. It's in. I need to do the math, but the Covenant renown goes up until 40, right? So I feel like, and the campaign ends next week, but the renown goes up to 40, and then there's no more rewards. So I feel like they would need to give us something after, so we weren't waiting too long without any new renown being set up. But
When do
yeah,
they
I
reach
think
maximum renown?
I am pulling up the math. One sec. Oh, why don't we have the dates in here? So we're going to hit number 22 on January 12th. Which is, I mean, I think, oh wait, there's so many renown numbers here. The system is crazy. Renown, Renown 34 is week 13 looking at this chart.
Okay.
And Renown 22 is going to be week 8. So we definitely have like over a month still of like minor content, but and you know, LFR is still going on. But yeah, I definitely feel like they'll probably drop stuff at BlizzConline and be like, oh, and like, you know, the new story campaign starts ahead of the raid. They could do that staggered thing again, where they give you some content ahead of the big system update. So like the mythic, you know, we're not going to get a new mythic season affix, we're not going to get a new raid, but we could get more of the story. And who knows, maybe they want to keep the raid more of a secret, or feel that they don't need as many rounds of testing after seeing how that kind of worked for Castle Nathria.
Maybe there'll be a little bit on the raid, like a week or two before BlizzConline, just so that there's still buzz on what's going to be talked about, and then more details on the actual show. I think I could see that happening too.
Or maybe the PTR won't go up, but they'll. I mean, it's always sort of a two-edged sword. Like maybe they would have data mining start because that kind of builds the organic hype, but they wouldn't have the servers up so people couldn't play stuff or, you know, really see what the zones are like. But they would be okay being like, oh, look, here's a new model, or like Anduin is blue, or, you know, like, you know, so Sylvanas is human. Like, just, you know, get people talking about that and then give the context at BlizzConline.
Yeah, exactly. I think I could see that happening, actually. Like, open up some conversations, but don't reveal everything, and then you have BlizzConline, you know, going through it all.
Yeah, so I could see them doing that. But yeah, so that's all we really have as far as news. I almost wonder, I mean, is it going to be a quiet month for news, because you know, Twisting Corridors was the big news, but that was at the start of last week. And it's like, do we really think we're going to get a lot of news in the last week besides this, you know, Torghast Beast event everyone forgot about?
Yeah.
Like, who knows? Maybe it'll be like, oh, amazing reward from Torghast Beast event. That's worth a whole week of news to discuss on a show. But yeah, it definitely seems that they're more in a quiet phase, and not even going back to the news, but just what we're used to in past Januaries. January is usually the start of the season, and like new raid. So it's strange having like the January without you know, without that competitive you know, stuff to cover. Like, I know AWC and all that is starting up, and normally it's like that. This is like when we have the race to world first, not December.
Yeah, it's been very odd timing with everything, having all of that going on over the holidays.
Yeah, so who knows? Maybe Blizzard is shifting, or they realize that, you know, maybe people now want to spend more time playing in December, and, you know, in January they go off and try to exercise or do New Year's resolutions, so they shouldn't push as much content. And you don't know, but it definitely feels very different than how they've been doing things. Even going back to Legion, like Nighthold was another January raid. Ny'alotha was January. Dazar Lore was January.
That's actually true. In multiple raids.
Yeah. So, yeah. So, people have questions, you can drop them in chat. But I think we covered all the major points. Oh yeah, Ida. If you go ahead.
I was gonna say, do we have the exact dates for BlizzConline? I forgot the exact dates. I just wanted to mention.
I think it's the 19th. Let me just pull this up. BlizzCon. Yeah, it is the 19th.
Okay. The 19th, we can get ready for a show then.
Oh, the really funny thing.
And apparently they're
is,
gonna be possible to be restreamed as well.
Oh, cool. It's funny, I googled it, and the top result that came up was from this website called Event Seeker, and it's like, BlizzConline is Friday to Saturday, takes place at the Anaheim Convention Center. And I'm like, it's just funny what Google prioritizes. Like, it just, Google just like mashes together things from their algorithm. Like, oh, BlizzCon, Anaheim Convention Center, BlizzConline. It's like, no, these words should not be next to each other. BlizzConline is not at the Anaheim Convention Center. No. But yeah, I was going to say that if you're watching the show, you probably like Twitch, and Wowhead finally updated our Twitch extension for Shadowlands. Blizzard recently added things to their API, so we couldn't do this at launch, which is why it's a little delayed, but we now track soulbinds and conduits in our character extensions. So instead of like asking someone in chat what their build is or what legendary they are using, now you can just open it up on the Wowhead extension if they have that installed, and it will tell you who the soulbind is, the nodes they went for, the conduits and what rank they are, as well as all the old stuff like, talents and gear.
Someone actually mentioned that to me on my stream yesterday.
Oh, cool.
Wondering if I could use it at some point, and I was like, you know what? Sounds like a good idea actually, because it makes it possible for people to inspect me without having to show everything.
Yeah, it also shows your transmog too. So if
transmog
someone is like, I don't care about like conduits, you can still, your
I want Annie's transmog.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah. So, Blizzard made this available to be tracked in December, and then Twitch was not approving extension updates over the holidays, so it just took a while based on it turned. Yeah, but we're very happy with it. Obviously, we hope people will give it a try. It worked well in BFA. We also redid our tooltips. I know some people, when they see the Covenant tooltips, they were like going on forever with all like, oh, the spec does this, but then if you're a different spec, here's like one random word, and we updated all that, so it's a lot more streamlined and should look nicer and more compact when you mouse over.
Yeah.
So I'll come. That's
awesome. Always putting together good things to use, good programs, good pages, good everything.
Aw, thanks.
Good job.
So
that kind of covers all the topics that we wanted to talk about today. Torghast was a big one.
Yep.
Quite a few things there to discuss, including the new thing again, which will be live tomorrow for NA and Wednesday for EU.
I like how no one knows what it is. They're just like, oh, it's the new thing. Like,
yeah, the new thing.
Yeah.
It's the new thing. Just check it out. Log in and then you can see it.
Yeah.
We still don't really know if there's going to be any more rewards than the existence of it as itself. But I guess we'll see tomorrow. And yeah. What else did we talk about today as a little summary? Torghast and Covenant campaign. Yep.
We'll have even
a little bit of a lore.
Yeah. We'll have more of it next week. So, definitely log in and keep doing it. You get a soulbind for finishing the campaign. So, like, Bastion gets the cute owl soulbind.
I saw that one, actually. It's really cute.
Yeah. So definitely do that. And say hi to Admiral Taylor in Orgos. Class tuning tomorrow. And if you feel that other parts of the game should have more immediate Blizzard attention, you can leave reports on their like bug or feedback forums politely. So if you're like, I wish Covenant missions would get some love, or this UI is confusing for new players, you can leave polite feedback in the right places.
Blizzard, I'm tired of sending my troops to suicide missions.
Yep. And yeah, just like sort of speculating on like, will we even get stuff before BlizzConline for patch 9.1, or will there be data mining or an Ian video where we'll all just be a big pile-on in mid-February?
Anti-cat sabotage and twisting corridors. Yes, please keep us safe.
Yes.
Cat-proof Torghast.
I'm gonna go pick him up 1 second. Brightpaw,
We get to say
love
bye
you.
to Brightpaw too.
Oh.
Maybe.
Okay,
Maybe?
so I'm not going to disturb him because
Oh.
he's looking out the window, and the white cat, the ragdoll cat that I post about on Twitter, keeps visiting me every day and is outside the window Brightpaw's looking at. So I don't want to disturb them. They're friends. Brightpaw usually does not like cats, so I'm happy that they're getting along. And it's just funny. I'm pretty sure this cat has been just watching me the entire show. So yeah, it's nice to know that cats are fans of the
I
show.
just saw an interesting question in the chat, actually. Will there be a TBC announcement at BlizzConline?
I think that there will be, and based on the recent survey Blizzard sent out about TBC, I think that they're also going to announce classic fresh servers, like a way to restart your progress and have it be more of like a seasonal type deal, as a way for people to like keep grinding and setting records in certain phases, and it also keeps the older content fresh. So I think they'll be announcing both things there, and maybe they'll even tie something into, hey, if you bought the BlizzCon line ticket, you can get like TBC access, because that's what they did with Classic, right?
Oh,
you
yeah,
could
the
spend
testing.
time. Yeah, like they had it so if you bought the ticket, you could play the demo at home. And they were like, oh, normally we want you to go to the convention to play the demo for the new expansion, but we wanted to have Classic be a perk. So I could see that reusing that tech for Burning Crusade.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I think that could definitely be something that they're planning for that too. Maybe as a reward even for getting the tickets.
Yeah, and I've been trying to like pivot some of our writers to writing like TBC basic stuff. So if they do announce it, we can start, getting a leg up with things like overviews and all that good stuff. So I think that's about it.
Yeah.
If you look at my Twitter after, I'll probably post pictures of the cat that's sitting outside.
Yeah, I
really
will be
cute.
keeping track of that.
Yeah.
I need to see that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's it. Before we say bye though, I want to give a quick shout out to Banky the Machine, who resubbed for 5 months. So thank you very, very much for that. Do we know if their event will be streamed on YouTube or Twitch? Do we know?
Oh, that's a good question, because Blizzard has the esports deal on YouTube, but Twitch is so obvious. Or will they make you
Wasn't BlizzCon always on their website?
Yeah, like I wonder what they're going to do. I still imagine they'd want it on their website because like Twitch chat can get really toxic, especially with like everything going on. So
I think so too, but I think they're allowing restreams, so that way their content will still be on Twitch too. Maybe that would be the plan.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. We'll see.
Curious, yeah, how much of it can be a restream? Like normally, I thought you could restream the opening ceremony, but I wonder.
Maybe only certain parts can be restreamed.
Right, or like I also imagine it might be a PR issue if like they say something and like someone's reacting like, oh, this sounds horrible, or like this is confusing, and like Blizzard can't react to it in like real time and like like send a tweet or a post, like it might get pretty messy.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously people are going to react anyway on their streams, but it seems like there might, like, if suppose like someone misspeaks in a Q&A, or like their word is slightly off, then it's a big problem if someone is reacting to it in real time. But yeah, so that's where we are.
I think it's time for the high five.
Yep,
if you're ready.
So I'm good. Brightpaw's watched a friend. Maybe they'll do their own high five. Yeah.
All right.
3, 2, 1.
Way, we did it. We can still do high fives.
Yep, California is in like really bad shape with COVID, so keep doing social distancing. Wash your hands, wear a mask.
Social distancing proof games right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no need to wash hands if you play online.
Yep.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys next week for further news and further updates on all of the World of Warcraft related things. And for now, enjoy World of Warcraft. And
yeah, have fun in twisting corridors.
Yeah, have fun in twisting corridors, and have fun in the snow. Apparently, there's a lot of snow everywhere in the world right now.
Not here. It's 70 degrees.
Not in California.
Yeah.
Apparently, there was some snow in Texas.
Oh yeah,
That's kind
I'm
of
jealous
crazy.
of them. I miss snow. Yeah.
And we got snow
see
here
you
in
next week,
Sweden
guys.
too. So, yeah.
Yeah.
See y'all next week. Bye-bye, everyone.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.